Hello, everyone. Today I have got this opportunity to interview the legendary ad man, poet, writer, screenwriter, TV programming head, philosopher, thinker. He's like one man creative department. Meet the Pandey minus the pandemonium, the one, the only, the original Kamlesh Pandey. Therefore, we thought, why not take this interaction live for our audience? I'm sure we all have so much to learn from him and get inspired. I have
You are scaring me.
No,
Uh,
sir, it's true.
well,
In
yeah,
fact, I've read somewhere that he's the only one in an advertising industry who has won the Best Copywriter of the Year award for 4 years in a row. And after
yeah,
that, he stopped making entries saying that others
yeah,
too should get a chance.
yeah.
Some of the iconic copy lines written by him are "हम रेड एंड वाइट पीने वालों की बात ही कुछ और है", "For red and white cigarettes", "Palmolive the जवाब नहीं", "For Colgate Palmolive", "Gimme red for ever ready", and many many more. In fact, advertising veteran Ajay Gehlot shared a very interesting trivia. Ajay got an opportunity to work on red and white cigarettes, where the client has asked the agency to come up with an alternative slogan for the brand, and the
Yeah.
brief was more or less the same. He said that he said that even after spending a whole week and over 300 baselines, he couldn't come up with something
Yeah.
as simple as
Yeah.
simple, memorable, and better than what Sir has created almost like 25 years ago. So apart from being apart from advertising, he has written over 40 feature films, and most of them have been blockbusters, including Jalwa, Tezab, Chalbaz, Dil, Saudagar, Khalnayak, and the list go on and on. Uh, so he's literally the one who has actually created the role of head of programming in the TV industry. So without further ado, I would like to begin the interview. During the interview, if our audience has any question that I should ask, they can just write in the comment box, and we will try to get those a few at least answered by him. So, sir,
I'll try my best, Akansha. Thank you
so
for inviting me on your program. Yeah.
it's a pleasure to have you over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it like returning to Rediffusion as a legend in residence?
I don't think I really left Rediffusion, you know. For me, as I described to Sandeep, that is like being back to the future more than the homecoming. Because I have remained very much in touch with Arun and Ajit and other people who left Rediff, but we have been very close, and because we shared a period in advertising in this country, and the spirit, and the DNA that you can't get rid of. So, frankly, uh, say psychologically or emotionally, I never left Rediff. I left Rediff physically. In the beginning because I had this offer from ZTV to be the head of programming, a job I had no idea about what the hell it is, because this country never had a head of programming. They had IAS officers who decided what is run on DD on Doordarshan, and I told Arun, I want to see this hot new girl, this new medium called satellite television. I've done enough of advertising and I've been moonlighting as screenwriter, writing movies. TV has been always fascinated me because I believe TV is more powerful than films and even advertising because it is repetitive and it is addictive. It is right into your house like electricity and water. You can switch on or you can switch off. And in fact, uh, when the offer came to me, uh, I I sort of it reminded me of something I had told Rajiv Gandhi when I was working on this election campaign for the Congress Party in 1984. So we came very close, and I used to shoot this film with him in Amethi. And he used to talk about the media. I mean, he was very curious and very interested in what is this thing called media. He was an MP at that time, not a prime minister. And Then one fine day, he asked me, I mean, the film I was working on required some archival footage. And I went to Mandi House to pick up the archival footage. And there in the basement, without air conditioning, the archival footage were lying and rotting. Films, videotapes, they were rotting, cobwebs and dirt and the film and the water dripping in and so on. And I got very upset. This is archival, this is history. History is buried in the basement of Mandi House, and Mandi House doesn't give a damn. I was so upset. So next day, I happened to meet Rajiv. By that time, he had become the PM. So this unfortunate thing that happened with Mrs. Gandhi. So he asked me, how was it? I said, look, if I were you, I would have taken Mandi House, the DD to court for wasting 38 years of this country's life. Because if we had the right television in this country, we could have had at least 3 generations growing up on a very different TV, very different TV. So he said, okay, you will get your chance. What he meant was something I was not very keen on. I don't want to go into that. But when the offer came from Zee TV, I said, oh, maybe this is the time. Okay, my friend, you were really talking big with Rajiv Gandhi. Here is your opportunity to show it. What can you do with, if you control the Hindi satellite TV in this country, the beginning of Hindi satellite television. So Arun said, look, you can go and have fun, but I will keep your job. You can have your sabbatical for 3 months. I'll keep your job. I'll keep everything. You come back. You're welcome. I said, Arun, once I leave things, I normally don't come back. But anyway, because not only Arun Nanda, Shekhar Kapoor, my friend, we were working on a film together to launch Bobby Deol at that time. Shekhar said, you're making a big mistake, Kamlesh. You are making a big mistake because satellite TV in this country, when DD is free to air, who's going to watch satellite television in this country? This Zee TV will shut down in 3 months. Shekhar Kapoor gave Zee TV 3 months to shut down. Alec Padamsee called me. You are an idiot. You are an idiot. Why are you leaving advertising? You are riding on the top in advertising and in Bollywood. You are having the best of both worlds. What more can you ask for? I said, Alec, I want to do television. I want to see what this thing is all about. And so I took the job because, and I had no clue at all. So me and Mr. Subhash Chandra brainstormed, okay, what is the job of a head of programming? Finally, we came to the definition like a magazine editor, what an editor does. He decides the content, what is going to be in the magazine. So my job is to choose and decide the content that will go into Zee television satellite, first Hindi satellite network. And the rest, as they say, is history because in the next few months, we were the fastest growing satellite television network in the history of mankind. I mean, we used to get fan mail from Worli post office in trucks, which we used to be recycled in some kind of decent packaging, because SL packaging used to be his company. So Subhash Chandra used to recycle those fan letters for SL packaging. So that's how it just happened, because I said, okay, I want to know. For me, anything which gives me the challenge and which I had no idea about, which I don't know anything about, I jump into it.
So,
Even though I'm not good enough for it, or I'm not equipped for it, I'm not experienced enough for it, but I like to jump into things. The way I jumped into movies and the way I jumped into satellite television. Yeah.
So do you consider your current role as legend in residence at Rediffusion a challenge?
No, not at all. See, this word legend, I don't subscribe to it. this is Sandeep Goel. He concocted something, and good luck to him. He's a friend, and sometimes the friends always say nice things about you. So welcome to do that. But for me, this word means nothing. I'm not a legend as far as I really don't know what really is a legend in the first place. In residence, yes, I am still at home. I'll be working from home, occasionally going to the office when I'm needed. But this word legend to me makes no sense at all. And with all due respect to Sandeep for using this word, fine. But for me, it's not a challenge. It's like after a long gap, I left Rediff in 92. Then in between, for a very short period, I was there for a few years once in a while. But formally, I never went back. But emotionally, I never left Rediff. Psychologically, emotionally, I never left Rediff, and I'm sure that even Arun and Ajit, at least these two gentlemen, they never left me because we kept communicating on email and WhatsApp occasionally for various things with Arun. In fact, when Arun decided to leave to uh, to shake off these appendages called Dentsu and Young and Rubicam, so I sent him a message. Arun, I want my job back. Now that we are back to the old rediffusion, what we used to be, I want my job back. And he was laughing. He said, "Oh, let us see." But anyway, I was just joking, kidding. Okay, now that you're back to the old rediffusion and the spirit of rediffusion, so why not? So for me, it's not such a big challenge.
Mhm. So,
Perhaps I'm much older now. Sort of, I'm now a grandfather. When I left Rediff, I was just a father. Now I'm a grandfather. That's the only difference it has made. But at heart, I'm still the same. There's no change at all inside. At my heart, I'm still the same, very curious, very excited. I mean, we used to be so restless to go to office. I mean, we couldn't wait. At 9 o'clock, I was there. Arun Kale was there. We were there. We were so excited about what is new today. What is the new assignment that we have to solve today? Work used to excite us so much. I mean, you can't imagine, you know. So for me, it's like the same way, going back to the same spirit, the same, roots, the same soul, excitement, energy. I mean, we used to create some of the best campaigns in the loo. Now, this I'm sharing for the first time. For example, the famous iconic line, whenever you see color, actually happened in the toilet. With me and Kale both were taking leak, and this executive from the branch, Calcutta branch, Subhash Chakravarti, because all the work was centralized in Bombay office from all the branches. And the executive used to come with assignments, brief and all that. Okay, here it is. And obviously, we were overworked. Me and Kale both were overworked. In fact, one year, between us, we counted about 5,000 work pieces, small and big campaigns, 5,000 in one year. So me and Kale were leading ourselves. And I said, yo, this Subhash has been hanging around for last 2 weeks, and he's raising hell. And because the hotel bills are going up, how long he's going to stay on? We have to do something. So I said, Akale, I have solved your problem. I have solved my problem. I'm going to give you a line. And let me tell you, anything that you see in life is your visual. Anything. And the line came up, whenever you see color, think of us. And the first outdoor hoarding, he came up, and the visual was fried eggs, yellow fried eggs. And that just took off, and it ran and ran for God knows how many years, 15, 20 years. But that campaign was created in the toilet, in Rediff toilet. So, so never underestimate the power of a toilet when it comes to creativity. I take it very seriously.
I get a lot of ideas while in toilet.
Good. So yes, so for me, it's not a big challenge, and actually, it just came out of the blue. I I had joked with Arun that now that you have shaken off Dentsu and Yan Rubicon, maybe you could get the old team back. And he was laughing. Okay, let's see. But when Sandeep uh, joined Rediffusion and he called me, I mean, I just sent a message. Happy days are here again. I mean, what else? So he said, the happy days are going to be happy only if you join. And he said, what about it? Why don't you join it and see what you can do with the young team and what you can share with them. I said, no problem. I will do that. So it was as simple as that, without any complications. So I'm not sort of awed or intimidated or take it as a some kind of big challenge. No, no, no. It's
In fact,
homecoming.
sir,
Homecoming is not a challenge. Homecoming is fun. It is fun. Yeah.
in fact,
And
sir,
it's
there
going
is
to,
like
yeah. Yeah.
grapevine conversations in the industry that rediffusion is left with only one magic trick, and that is you. And they're apprehensive if this move will work this time around or not. So, how would you react to them?
See, there are enough idiots who have these their two-bit opinions about everybody and everything and what is going on in rediffusion and what is going on in my life. And I don't give them any credit. I don't take it seriously. People can be jealous. People can be this is, everybody knows it. So it's not that Rediff doesn't have any other trick. Thing is that now that they're going back to the old spirit, the spirit of late 70s and early 80s, when Rediff sort of was the benchmark in creativity. Our clients used to be literally intimidated by us. I'm telling you, sharing the secret that any client that they won't even dare to say no to our work because they will be seen as that they don't understand advertising. If you reject a rediffusion creative, it means you do not understand advertising or creativity. Simple as that. So they so in awe of rediffusion. Okay, I'll share one example with you. We were always understaffed and overworked. I didn't even have enough executives to take my work to the clients to show them and get their approval and bring it back. So I had a peon, John, I still remember, and he used to drink in the evening. And we had a very good client called Sandoz. They used to make fabric dyes and chemicals, and they were good paymaster. In fact, our salaries used to come from Sandoz. But I had no executive to take the work almost across the street to Sanders' office in Worli to get their approval. So I used to send John with artwork. John, just take it, go to Sandoz, stand there, and do not leave until the guy signs the artwork. He says, okay, this is fine. And John would do just that. He would stand with the work and say, sir, signature, sir, signature. John was the most successful account executive in that period because he had 100% hit rate. Not a single piece of work, advertising work, came without approval of the client. And all John got was half a bottle of rum from me. So we used to have that kind of reputation that clients would not even think of saying no to our work because we were so, not only we were so honest with our work. We used to unsell our own work. I must share with you how we got the Red Eveready account, up against Hindustan Thompson, Lintas, all the big top agencies, the 4 or 5 of them. And we were very small agencies. Our annual billing was 15 lakhs, period. Rediffusion was billing 15 lakhs a year at that time. where even a small agencies used to bill 4 crore, 5 crore, things like that. So Arun took 4 or 5 campaigns for presentation. He made, he first took out the first campaign and they loved it. Union Carbide guys, they loved it. Oh, fantastic, not bad. So no, no, this is not the campaign for you. Tell you second campaign, third campaign. Arun went on unselling our own campaign to the client. Finally, the client got so fed up. Okay, Arun, please tell us what to do. They begged Arun. Union Carbide begged Arun, please tell us what to do. And then he presented the Chosen One campaign for Red Ever Ready, which was finally released and so on. So we were like that. We used to unsell our own work to a client. I mean, we have never heard of this kind of thing done in advertising ever before, and even after that. So we were so honest. Okay, yes, here is the approach, but we don't agree with this. We don't think it is right for you. And all based on their brief, not out of our imagination. So yes, that is what built up our reputation. And also our guts. We had guts. I remember, for the Lakme, when we got the Lakme account, we went with our campaign, with a big campaign. Our Bombay office executive Vishwanathan was presenting to Simon Tata, Mrs. Simon Tata. And Lakme used to do usual advertising, all magazine back pages, multicolor, good-looking women, well-dressed women, lipsticks, nail enamel, and that was the end of story. And here we went with the black and white campaign with a theme like, is it bad to look good? That was the theme because makeup was taboo in this country, looked down upon. A woman in this country at that time could not, openly, say, yes, I need makeup because that will mean you want to attract other men. So makeup was a big taboo. And we wanted to break that taboo because Lakme was the main brand those days. So that's why this campaign, is it bad to look good? And Simon Tata got very upset. And Vishwanathan went on selling the campaign, went on selling it. Finally, she got so angry. She said, Mr. Vishwanathan, I don't want to see your face. Mr. Simon Tata, our client, he said, Mr. Vishwanathan, I don't want to see your face. So we said, okay, Madam Simon Tata, I don't care if you don't like my face, but this is the campaign you're going to buy. That was the guts. And that is the campaign finally released, which got lots of awards. And actually, that is the year 1978, where Mrs. Simon Tata introduced the Best Copywriter of the Year award in CAG, Commercial Artists Guild, which never had an award for writers, copywriters. They always had award for art directors, but not for copyright. She was the one who sponsored the award in 78. And after that, for 4 years, I went on, entering and winning the award. That also has an interesting backstory, if you allow me to share it. What happened was, when I joined Hindustan Thompson 1970 as a junior copywriter, I came from the backwaters of Balia. My English was atrocious. In fact, my job application is still kind of historical document in advertising because all it said was, I need a haircut, and if you can give me a job, I can get a haircut. End of story. My luck that on the other side, it was not an Indian, the creative head. It was an Australian, Murray Bailey. He saw my application. He called me. He said, look, I don't have anything right now, but please call me after 3 months. I was shocked. Is this guy as insane as I am? But there was hope because I have been struggling in Bombay City for about 4 years. I dropped out of JJ Institute of Applied Art. And I was going hungry many days, nothing to eat, and often surviving on a cup of tea, in the whole day. And I was in a bad shape, really. So when I went again, after 3 months, he gave me a copy test and he said, okay, his reaction was that, Kamlesh, your spelling is bad, your grammar is worse. I came from backwaters of Balia, but one day you're going to be the best. So I remembered that. And I went on working on that promise that I must prove Murray Bale right by being the best. So I had to win the award for 4 years in succession just to prove Murray Bale right. That what he said about me, कि one day you're going to be the best. And where, we had some fantastic writers. We had Frank Simoes, we had Ivan Arthur. We're all kind of copywriting greats in those days. But yes, I
And
want.
so you stopped entering the awards because you thought that others should also get a chance. So did
Yes,
this
that exactly was because actually that I took it from Lata Mangeshkar because Lata Mangeshkar after a while stopped entering her songs for Filmfare Awards. He said, no, no, more, no more. I want younger singers to get a chance. So that was inspired by Lata Mangeshkar. Look, enough is enough. I don't want to really, I don't needed to prove anything else. I just wanted to prove Murray Bale right. Yes, he was because I was known as a country bumpkin in Hindustan Thompson because I came from Balia and my English was not so good, and I was an English copywriter. I was writing copy in English, of course Hindi as well because I was the first bilingual writer in advertising. So they used to make fun of me in Hindustan Thompson, and I used to be called a country bumpkin. So I said, okay, one day, and we in Balia, we take it very seriously when somebody says something nasty about us. We don't really give up. So I had to prove that I am from Balia. So I had to prove that yes, this country bumpkin from Balia can be the best copywriter of the year in advertising, Indian advertising, for 4 years in succession. So I did that. Yeah.
that's an amazing background that you've shared with us. We did not know. We thought because you consider yourself you're so good at work, and you thought that probably others should also get a chance. But this is an interesting story that you shared, that because you had to show it to somebody that coming from Balia, you can still do good English.
Yeah, and much more than that, Murray Bale, I have tremendous regard for him because he recognized. I sent the same application to many other agencies and they must have taken into bits and pieces into waste basket. He was the only one because he was Australian, not an Indian. He took my application very seriously. He called. Not only that, the funny thing was the job, the salary. After he saw the copy test and he liked it, he said, okay, fine, I'm going to give you a job. Okay, what kind of salary do you expect? And in those days, I'm talking about 1970s, 1970 to be exact. Most of my friends, my classmates who were gold medalists from JJ Institute of Applied Art, they were getting 150 rupees a month, 75 rupees a month, 100 rupees a month. That kind of salary was being paid to diploma holders, who were visualizers and so on. I didn't have a diploma either. I had dropped out and so on. So what salary I know I could expect? So I kept quiet. So he said, okay, Kamlesh, 500 rupees a month. So I said, and Australian accent and English accent, I was not exposed to, I was not used to. I was not very sure what I heard. Maybe he said 50 rupees. Maybe he said, you know, 150 rupees. I don't know what he said. So I kept further quiet. He thought 500 rupees a month was not enough. So he said, okay, Kamlesh, I can't do better than 800 rupees a month. So when my classmates were getting 150 rupees a month in agency as visualizer or director, I started with 800 rupees a month as English copywriter in India's number one advertising agency. And that man said, one day you're going to be the best. So I had to prove him right.
And I
And I
think
did. Yeah.
uh, in the at the age of 27, you won your first Best Copywriter award.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, so while I was researching about your background, I found out that I couldn't find any international awards. So were you
Yeah,
not interested
yes,
in
you know why? Very funny, very strange reason. We didn't have foreign exchange. We could not get foreign exchange to pay the entry fee for the international competitions.
Oh.
Maximum allowed was $100. Maximum those days allowed for any Indian for foreign exchange was $100, and that was not enough to enter my work in international competitions. I wanted to, but we couldn't afford it because the government or the RBI was not willing to give us the foreign exchange. That was the reason. There was no other reason. But now, of course, things are different. Our foreign exchange is enormous and so on, and people are getting paid and so on. So, but in those days, I'm talking about 1976, 77, when I joined Rediffusion, we just couldn't afford it. I tried so hard with Ajit and Arun ki, please, can you arrange some foreign exchange, some dollars? Nothing, not possible, not possible. So we couldn't enter. Yeah, simple as that.
In fact, in today's age, we probably would not have even thought that this could be a possible reason because
Yes,
unaware
this was the reason. This was the reason. This was the reason. This was the only reason.
we are so
Because
privileged now.
because we used to get these annuals from abroad, publications, art directors annual, so on and so forth, which featured the great work, advertising work of that year from Clio and from all kind of places. And I thought me and Kale both thought we should enter, but we couldn't afford it. We didn't have the foreign exchange to pay the entry fee. That was the reason. Yeah.
So we keep on talking about classic ads, evergreen and iconic ads. In fact, some of them are made by you. So what is the reason that we do not make such ads in today's time?
Uh, I really don't know how to answer it because I grew up in 70s when I joined advertising 1970. I grew up in an age when to use the famous line by Jerry De La Femina, a great copywriter from US. He said, advertising is the most fun you can have with your clothes on. So everything came out of the fun. It was not work really. That's why I told you. We were hungry to get to the office. Can you imagine that today? That people are desperate and hungry to reach the office. Home fine, but office. Office is where everything was happening. And the way we sort of attacked work, attacked, me and Kale both, because we loved gossip. So the sooner we could get rid of the work, the more time we will get for gossip. And what happened used to happen was our cabin and Arun's cabin was just next to each other, and in between there was just a glass partition. So we will do something on this side, our side, and just show the whole thing on the glass to Arun on the other side. We didn't even have to go to his room, and he will just nod yes or no, whatever he had to say. And the kind of freedom, I think, uh, the reason I can state with confidence is Arunanda. Why we don't see that kind of work today, as far as I'm concerned, Arunanda. The freedom he gave us, the hand holding, and he stood by us. Whatever we created, he stood by us all along. Yes, you are free. Let's see what you can come up. I know when this is an anecdote. I was associate creative director in Grant Advertising in 1976, and I was, and Grant was a big agency. It was one of the bigger agencies. It had about 5 crore annual billing at that time, and it got Colgate as an account. So I was going on a leave to Allahabad. Then I saw this ad in the paper for Bush calculators. I said, "My God, this is the kind of ad I want to do. who are these people? So I saw the key number. Those days, under every ad, there used to be a key number, rediffusion. So I called their office. Yeah, I want to meet up. So I came and we talked, and this how my work done in Hindustan Thompson and a couple of other agencies, and said, fine, but we can't afford your salary. What you are getting as associate creative director in grant, we can't afford you. We can only afford this much. Yes or no? I was single and I didn't give a damn how much I'm getting paid. I said, okay. So I said, fine, okay for me. So Ajit Balkrishnan took me to a corporate lunch in a Udupi restaurant downstairs. I still remember that famous corporate lunch Ajit took me to. Of course, later on, agency became very big and Rediff Mail and all that. But yes, I enjoy. I remember the corporate lunch of in a Udupi restaurant where we had thali. We both had thalis, and I accepted the job. But then asked me, okay, what kind of designation would you like? Since I was the department, I was the only one. There was no other copywriter. I was the only one. I said, look, I'm the department. So you can call me copy superintendent, copy overseer, copy uh, copy chief secretary, who cares? I'm just a writer. What I'm saying is the difference is that I was not chasing a visiting card. In fact, I never had a visiting card for a long time in VD Freedom. I think much later they started printing visiting cards and I also got one, but it was least of the issues. And the freedom that Arun gave, I think to some extent, perhaps that is the reason why we don't see those kind of work anymore. We were young, we were hungry, we were like, you know, in that zone where we could do almost anything and get away with it. We
So
could
you
do
think
anything and get away with
people
it.
today don't get freedom and they don't think work is fun
I
anymore?
don't think so because the kind of work I see is so despicable, atrocious. I mean, can you imagine the and then 80% of the ads are what? You get a film star or a sports person to become the brand ambassador. Your job is done. That is the end of your creativity. Getting an Amitabh Bachchan or XYZ or a Sachin Tendulkar or whosoever, Virat Kohli, that is the end of your creativity. How can you give your best? These people are video vampires. We used to call them video vampires. I only used once Kapil Dev in one of my campaigns for a bicycle, for a bicycle. But after that, or even before that, I never used any celebrities as a brand ambassador uh, because we used to call them video vampires because you end up advertising them more than advertising your own product. They took over the product. You hope that yes, people will see because Shah Rukh Khan is there or Amitabh Bachchan is there. I mean, who will believe that Shah Rukh Khan, who may have a dozen BMWs and Mercedes, is actually driving this little car that he's advertising? Who will believe? But yes, maybe some people believe that. Good luck to them. I don't. I don't subscribe to that kind of it. I think people in general either they have run out of ideas, they have run out of any good creative ideas or stories to tell, or they're under pressure from the client. The client wants an Bachchan or a Virat Kohli. What can they do? Okay, you get or a film star. What can they do? They do give it. So in my understanding, I think it's more of the client pressure. I don't think the clients are encouraging or appreciating or even expecting good creative. They somehow they're happy with the mediocrity. Good luck to them. I don't
But
belong in that
a few
category.
will argue that consumers have evolved and we've got more consumer data. We know what consumers expect.
To
So
hell
and
with that,
old
to
days
hell,
advertising won't work
to
today.
hell with the consumer data. I have been through this long enough. 17 years in Rediff and even later on, off and on. Consumer is not a moron. Consumer is your wife, your sister, your daughter, your son, your father and mother. I take consumers very seriously. In fact, I write movies for them. What more can be what can be a better example that consumers are looking for a story, something that can affect their life, change their life, add something to their life. Whether it is a soap or a movie, there is no difference. Whether it's a soap or a movie, there is no difference. And all this consumer data and XYZ, I don't think are actually going to help in getting good creative. In fact, what I used to do, and this is a secret I'm sharing in public, we would first use to do the creative without any brief. And then we used to work the brief backwards from the creative. So it fitted so well. The client used to get very impressed. My God, what a fit. Perfect fit between the brief and the creative. They had no idea that we first did the creative because this is what you need, my friend. Regardless of all the data and all the research and all the crap, this is what you are going to need. People are people. People are not media experts. People are not, they're not into analyzing X, Y, Z. They are emotional people. They are simple people. They want something which is honest with you, with them. They don't want something which can we can cheat them. So if you are able to connect with them emotionally, psychologically, and honestly, that's very important. Open your heart to them. It will work regardless of all data. How many consumers have access to consumer data? Who has the time to read the consumer data, whatever it is, a profile XYZ? Common sense. I think there is a big racket going on, and I'm not looking down on consumer data. Racket is to disguise common sense into very complicated theories. People write books, and I'm surprised. What is there to write books? I know people. I come from a village in Balia. I know I have been from a small town, Allahabad. I am here in Metro. I know people. I know how are they going to react, what they want, what they're looking for, what can affect their lives. I know that because they are me and I am them. I'm not separate. I'm not just a copywriter and XYZ. I'm also a consumer. I am also a consumer. So if something can affect me in a positive way on an emotional and psychological level, yes, it will work regardless of what the consumer did. Consumer data and many times are simply to fool the clients, to impress the client or to fool them or maybe both. But I have never taken consumer data very seriously. Honestly, I'm confessing it. I go with my guts, my own observation, and my own experience of people around me, my neighborhood, the the market I go to, and the people I meet. They are consumers. So all these numbers and these configurations and theories and analysis and all that numbers and big charts, I think they're simply to intimidate the client, not really to help them. I think in it is common sense. I think entire consumer psyche is basically common sense. It can be reduced to very simple common sense. Yes, sometimes you do need a bit of research in terms of psychographics and demographics, etc., etc. But that's only information. It is not going to decide, what kind of creative that you're going to produce. So I don't take the so-called consumer data very seriously because I have my own ways. I have done advertising, I'm doing movies, I've done television. Z, when I was offered Z, I took Z as a brand. Okay, how am I going to sell Z as a brand? And I did something very simple, very, very simple. I had a show called Dak Ghar. Dak Ghar used to reply the letters coming from the viewers. Now we were new, we were not getting any viewers. So I and my staff started writing fan mails, fan letters in my own way to Dak Ghar. And what kind of fan letters? With rice, with matchsticks, with spices, and writing jokes, writing poetry. That create and the consumers are so smart. They started playing it back to us. They thought, oh, this is the way to write to a TV channel, which they couldn't do to Doordarshan. But here is ZTV. It's she's like my aunt or my sister or my mother and so on. They would send jokes, they would send poems, they would send letters. They would send letters written in the blood, like this, like the kind of letters you send to a film star. We had to put a stop to it. I had to put a stop to, please do not send letters written in your blood. If you have excess blood, donate it. But the consumer started playing it back to us. Okay, this is the way to respond to a satellite channel. And we took off. We just took off. And it did not require any consumer data and research about viewership and XYZ. Nothing, common sense. Yes, I want to invite the viewers, the audience into my studio. You come with your, come, let's laugh together, let's have fun together. You send me any kind of letter. I mean, I used to get this 6 feet long letters written, 6 feet in size. And they will show it on camera. Okay, my God, what a letter. And the audience will respond. They will find their own way. And that's why I started Antakshari. I mean, a whole bunch of shows on ZTV, if you remember, in the beginning, I stole from radio. Whatever show was popular in radio, I said, let's make it visual. Antakshari happened, soap operas happened, so on and so forth, without any so-called consumer data and research. This is what people want. If you are a real creative person, you will know what people want. You should have the sensitivity and understanding if you are a creative person about what the people want. Consumer data, numbers, figures, etc., they may be functional, they may be useful, but they're not something that you can't do without. Or you have to depend on completely, okay, I can't do my creative unless I have this so-called consumer data.
Sir, copywriting is not my field, but I see a lot of senior advertising copywriters sharing a lot of crap work, if I may say, crap copywriting on Facebook. See what has happened to copywriting. So why do you think that we're not able to attract exceptional or even above average young talent in writing?
That is the real problem, actually. What happened was, in my time, we were lucky to some extent because advertising used to attract best of the talent. From IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Calcutta, all over India. Advertising used to be one of the best options for them, for a job, for a career. And the same thing in creative. I mean, even when I was sort of struggling for a job, the iconic agency was MCM. MCM, where Arun Nanda and Ajit Balkrishnan were working before they left and started Rediffusion. MCM had this incredible creative, spirit. This art director Arun Kolhatkar, copywriter Deepak. Man, they used to create amazing work, and they were my idol. Frank Simoes. He used to write copy like Shakespeare. I mean, some of the ads that Frank Simoes wrote, my God, what lines! He wrote literature. Advertising was literature. Ivan Orford, Frank Simoes. Arun Koratkar of MCM. So yes, and of course it was just one small agency and so on and so forth. But inside us, we all knew, okay, this is the kind of work that we should be doing. They were our idols. So, and in our own small way in reading, I try to do the same thing. Okay, if Arun Khadkar was in Rediff for, you know, Frank Simoes, what kind of work they would be doing? So yes, I think either people have become lazy. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, or they have run out of ideas of creativity, or they are simply chasing visiting cards, or they're under pressure from the client. Otherwise, I don't see any other reason why you can't do great creative work. You can't do great creative work. Even in my sort of uh, return to radio for a short time, I was working on Maruti, Maruti cars, because we were the agency the first launched Maruti. We designed the logo. Maruti logo was designed by Rediff, and we had launched the brand. Then it went to some other agency. Then it came back to us. So when I had come back, I think sometime around year 2000, and I was asked to do something for Maruti. And my young son, I used to take him to play cricket every morning, 6 o'clock to a ground. And I used to see this man with his son at the bus stop, waiting for the bus to go to the same place with her son. You know, so that's where I got my TV commercial. That story was very simple. That this man who's watching me going by with my son in the car, Maruti car, to the place where he's going to play cricket. It was his dream that one day he will have a Maruti and he will drive his son to the spot himself. So that's how this campaign "Mera Sapna Meri Maruti" became. आज आंखों में थी कल हाथों में होगी. I think that was the sort of line. कि, it is in my eyes today, but in my hands tomorrow. So the desire, simple. That's why I said ki, the other side, the consumer is not a moron. She is your neighbor. She is the people you meet at the bus stop, at railway stations, and everywhere else. Why they should be strangers? Why they need this humongous amount of consumer research to understand them? If you can't understand your consumer, I don't think you deserve to be creative. I don't think you deserve to be creative because they are humans. Consumers are not robots. They are not machines. They are humans. You too are a human. It is a one-to-one dialogue. Every every creative is a dialogue between you and the consumer, one to one. If my mother is sitting on the other side of the TV watching an ad done by me, is she going to respond or not? Or my father, or my brother, or my sister, or my friends? I imagine them to be on the other side. Okay, I'm doing this ad. How are they going to respond and react? Simple as that. It doesn't need great psychoanalysis and research and blah blah, whatever they say. It needs common sense. It needs very simple human emotions, heart to heart and heart to heart dialogue. I mean, imagine those good old days, and people used to write letters. We have forgotten it. We have lost that art of writing letters, and we have reduced all that to this ugly, obscene SMSs, messages with very bad spelling and everything and grammar. I mean, you read WhatsApp, you feel ashamed. What has happened to our language? Is this our language that we learned in the school, in the SMSs and WhatsApp messages and so on? They can't even write correct English or grammatically correct English. with right spelling and all that. What more can we expect? How can we expect them to be a Shakespeare or
But there are
then or a David Abbott or a Bill Burnback and
how
George Louis?
advertising
Yeah, yeah.
attract.
Sorry, yeah. You were saying something?
Yeah, I was saying that. Are you able to get me correctly? Because I think there's some internet.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that there are good writers, there are writers in other field, but advertising is not able to attract good writers.
Yeah, that you are right about this. That we are not be advertising as a profession is not being able to attract good talent. They are going elsewhere. They are doing something else. Even in advertising, when I meet a couple of these youngsters, they all want to write movies. I said, why? What's wrong with advertising? For me, it was an accident. Simply because, yes, I knew Amol Palekar, and because I was very close to the Hindi theater and Marathi theater, the Vijay Mehta's Rangayan and Satyadev Dubey's group and all that. In fact, not only me, but entire advertising community as such was the most important audience for any theatrical show, any stage play, English, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, whatever. And what fun, what excitement, what energy. Marathi theatre, Hindi theatre, English theatre, Alec Pedamsi, Sadhdev Dubey, Vijaya Bai, Amol Palekar, Vijay Tendulkar, my God, insanity. So I knew him because I used to go to watch his plays and so on, and also because he was in JJ Fine Art. He's a good painter, Amol Palekar. So one fine day I met him on the street, after a long gap. By that time he had become a film star. He used to work in a bank, then he joined theater, and from theater he went to movies. I said, what are you doing? Where? I said, I'm here in Juhu and I'm just shifted here. And, oh, my bungalow is here. I didn't come home for dinner. I went for dinner. I said, oh, I'm doing my first Hindi film. And I don't have money for a writer. And you don't need money because you got a good job. You're working with Rediffusion. You got a house, everything. Your life is set. You got a driver car, the work's flat. So would you write it for me? I said, look, I've never written a film. I have never written a film. My only connection with script writing was that, in Hindustan Thompson, they used to have Bombay Dyeing as a client. And Nasli Wadia had rejected about 39 campaigns done by senior writers. Ivan and Triti Stafford, Sheila Saeed, Sushma Kumar, and, the whole gang, Usha Bhandarkar. So my creative director, Andre Sison, British, I was the junior most. I said, would you like to attempt something? I said, okay, why not? So I wrote a cinema commercial, which was basically a spoof on Hollywood, Hollywood heist movies. That three goons enter Bombay Dyeing basement to steal the money from the safe. So they dynamite the safe, and while the wire is burning, they look around and find these goodies, the dress material and the saris and towels and blah blah dress. They go berserk, and the wire is burning. Finally, the safe explodes. It is empty, and it just has one sticker saying "Steal the show in Bombay Dyeing." Nasli Wadia bought it. Nasli Wadia bought it, and the the agency saved the client, the business. So Andre Sison gave me a screenplay of Butch Cassidy's Sundance Kid as a gift. That is the first screenplay I saw in my life. So, but this is how the movies are written. This is the format of a screenplay. Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid. Life is very strange. What happened was for Rang De Basanti, Rakesh Mehra was in London to do the casting of the Britishers. So the casting director happened to be a girl. So he gave her a copy of the script. The girl took the script home. Her father saw the script and saw my name on it. So I know this guy. I gave him Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid. And I told him one day you will write movies. So that's how it happens. I never wanted to write movie, never. But it happened. Amol said, why don't you write it? So I wrote Ankahi for Amol. Javed Saab saw the film as a trial, Javed and Shabana. And the only thing, and Javed Saab was like idol, God for us. So the Javed Saab said, Ki, who's this? Who's your writer? He said, oh, a friend of mine. He's in advertising and I didn't have money for any other writer. So he wrote it for me. He said, उसको बोलो मेरे पेट पे लात मत मारे. That is that is what Amol told me that Javed साहब ने बोला है उसको बोलो मेरे पेट पे लात मत मारे. So I was amused कि what a compliment. And that too for totally unknown writer called Kamlesh Pai. After that, then what happened was Gul Anand, who was a well-known producer, he saw Ankahi for distribution. He didn't buy the film. He asked for my number. So he called me at the office. Why don't you come? We have something that we want you to write. So I went and met him, and they were making Jalwa. And that's where I met my friend Pankaj Parashar, who was the director from FTI, and said, we are making this film. Manika, look, I have never written a commercial film. Jalwa is a totally commercial film. I don't know how to write a commercial film. No, you don't worry. You just write it. And I wrote Jalwa as I write ad. Basically, smart one-liners. I mean, in advertising, copywriting was more or less interesting one-liners, headlines, copy, etc. There were many campaigns were totally copy-oriented. I used to love writing copy. I used to love writing copy because my idol was David Abbott, who I consider the Shakespeare of advertising, the way he used to write body copy. So I wrote Jalwa, and suddenly everybody was talking about this new guy, Kamlesh Pandey. And the line used in the media was कि टकसाल से एक नया सिक्का निकला है. टकसाल से एक नया सिक्का निकला है कमलेश पांडे. और उसमें एक दो लाइनें आज भी और चार में फर्क होता है वगैरह वगैरह. It just took off, not because I was very good, because everybody else was so bad. Because everybody else was so bad, I stood out. My work stood out because yes, it was smart. It was smart. It was intelligent. It was clever. It was very literate. It was literate. So it stood out among all the mediocrity that was going on at that time. I'm talking about 1987. Yeah, 87. Yeah. And then for some reason, I used to meet N. Chandra. We did Tezab, Dil Beta. I mean, as the rest is like, history. So I never wanted to write movies. In fact, when Javed Saab's, comment came to me, I said, maybe I can write movies, yeah. So I tried to meet Javed Akhtar. I had a friend called Seema Sahni who used to do ad films with Mr. Uh, Prahlad Kakkar. She used to assist him in the production. And Seema was Ismat Chughtai's daughter, the famous Urdu writer Ismat Chughtai. She was her daughter, and she knew Javed Sahab very well because they were all together. So I said, Seema, please get me an appointment with Javed Akhtar. I want to know what is this writing for films about. She tried for 6 months. Javed Sahab did not meet me. Then I met him on the night I got Filmfare for Tezab. He was sitting with Shabana at this hotel where the awards were going on. Even though we were on the same film, he wrote lyrics for Tezab, I wrote the dialogue. I went and introduced myself, Javed Saab, my Kamlesh Pandey. Of course, he started laughing, became great friends afterward. But even he, but afterwards, he recommended me to Subhash Ghai for Saudagar, etc., and the rest. But it never occurred to me, yes, I'm going to be writing movies, etc. I was quite happy with the advertising. I was getting well paid. My life was very comfortable, well settled, and so on. I was not I wasn't wanting anything. In fact, I was the first writer in Bollywood who entered Bollywood with a driver and a car and a flat and a normal good life. Otherwise, normal writers in Bollywood, they enter hungry, starving, झोपड़पट्टी में कहीं से कुछ बेचारे struggle करके रहते हैं और अपना कुछ they try to find out something. But I was like, and they were all very shocked कि साला इसकी सिर्फ 2 फिल्में ही राइटर लिखा हुआ है और ये गाड़ी में घूम रहा है मतलब हद है so that's why I didn't leave advertising for a long time when I was moonlighting as script writer. I didn't leave advertising because movies are very uncertain, unpredictable, insecure. You never know what is going to happen next. So I couldn't afford to leave advertising. And besides, I loved advertising. I loved the excitement and the fun that, as Jerry Della Femina said, the most fun you can have with your clothes on. It was like that.
So you have shared with us some really interesting stories about yourself, and we also discuss quite a lot of challenging aspects of advertising. But do you
Yes.
find anything positive in advertising these days?
No. I'll be very honest. No. I'll tell you why. I still, I'm still hungry for good creative, some good advertising. It makes my day when I see a good ad. When I was in Rediff, guess who was my fan? Can you guess? Satyajit Ray. He used to follow my work, Rediff work. Also because one of our executives in Calcutta was very close to. They shared the same hobby of antique books. So he used to comment on my work when he liked something. In fact, I was so once I did a script for a sari commercial, cutout saris, and I asked my executive, why don't you take the script to Mr. Ray? Because he had done a film called Simabad, which was about the hero was an advertising executive, and in Simabad there was a film ad for a fan, and the ad was in color. Obviously, even the ad was shot by Ray for the story. I said, if he can shoot that ad for the fan, he can shoot my film. So Ray was so kind. He didn't say, how dare you send me your script for a sari ad to Sanjeev Ray? I'm Ray. After 1 month, he responded. He said, Kamlesh, my one shot is about 4 minutes. Okay? And in your 1 minute commercial, there are 15 shots. How do you expect me to do 15 shots in 60 seconds? 4 seconds each. I said, sir, I'm sending you a film. Prahlad Kakkad had done a film for Nescafe, which had 60 shots in 60 seconds. I said, sir, somebody has done 60 shots in 60 seconds. I wanted you to do only 15. But of course, he refused politely. But yes, we dared. Okay, why not Ray? If Sham Medical can do ads, why not Ray and other people? So I think basically what I am looking for is something, a spark or a way of looking at life and human condition. Because advertising is not just about selling. I never looked at advertising as something just about selling. Okay, you have to sell this or you have to sell that. I looked at advertising as a kind of a device for human interaction. I mean, for me, the greatest ad, and I hope people don't take it, in a different way. Ramcharitmanas is an ad. Is an ad for a consumer. It is selling a story. selling Ram or Sita and others characters, and they go all the way to your heart. And it's a book. It's a book. If people can be sold on a story like that they still are not able to overcome it. In fact, I had to write Ram Yug only to keep Ramayana fresh, which is now on MX Player. So basically, this advertising, as I understand it, is a communication between two humans, me on this side and the consumer on the other side. And I don't take them to be faceless consumers or a number, as most people do. Okay, it's a number. Consumer is not a number. He is human. He has issues. He has many problems. He's trying to survive in a situation which is out of his control. How am I going to help him do that? If anything that I'm trying to sell will be able to somehow relieve his pain or add something to his life, why not? And we are forgetting this basic thing. We are forgetting this basic emotion that selling is not to a stranger, selling is not to an alien, selling is not to a machine. It's a human on the other side, and who has or who, whether he or she, they have their own problems, own limitations, own desires, own ambitions, and you have to, whatever you are selling, is it going to make any difference to their life, and in what way? That's it. I have not gone to, luckily, I have never went to any advertising institute or never read any book on advertising. Not even the famous book by David Ogilvy. I've never read it. But for me, it is like writing a letter to somebody I know. Okay, I've got this thing and it has a certain function which is very useful to you. And maybe if you happen to have this problem, this thing that I'm trying to send you may solve that problem. Simple as that. Why can't your communication be so intimate? Why why should the consumer be a stranger or a number? If they are not faceless numbers. The moment you reduce your consumer to a faceless number, you are dead. As a creative person, you are dead. You can't do good, really good creating. It's inhuman. So for me, I keep looking for that. Is there any story anywhere I find which is working? And I see a film star, I see Virat Kohli, I mean, imagine Sachin Tendulkar selling batteries. What does he know about batteries? I mean, these people, they don't even have the common sense to understand. I know that the people will watch it because Sachin is there, Amitabh Bachchan is there, Virat Kohli is there. But so what? So what? Am I going to buy something just because Hema Malini is buying it or Deepika Padukone is buying it? No. Why? I know that she was getting paid huge amount, humongous amount to say what she says. Can't I understand it? That she was getting paid, Amitabh Bachchan is getting paid to say what he says. So, so I am sort of basically I'm exposing myself, my own limitations, my own weakness as a very creative person. Okay, I have, I don't have any ideas. I don't know how to do it. So I have to get a star. I have to get a celebrity. I have to get a video vampire to sell it. Otherwise, it's simple. It is simple. It is simple if you know who's on the other side. They are not strangers. They are not faceless numbers. They are people there.
So, but that means that Amitabh Bachchan shouldn't have been onboarded for the polio campaign. If you're saying that.
That is a different story. And even there, fine, I mean, you can use a face because it's a well-known face to sell something which is public health issue. But hair oil, hair oil, and things that you know that this star will never be using.
Yeah, that's a
You,
point.
you know very well that Shah Rukh Khan will not be driving this little car. He has a dozen BMWs and Mercedes. Where is the logic? I think advertising, because they look down on consumer, कि they are morons and so on. उनको एक फिल्म स्टार थोबड़ा डाल दो, एक फिल्म स्टार डाल दो, एक स्पोर्ट्स स्टार डाल दो, बस फिर कुछ भी चिपका दो, कुछ भी चिपका दो, चाहे वो हाजमे की गोली हो या कॉन्स्टिपेशन की कोई दवा हो, कुछ भी चिपका दो, बिक जाएगा. And there are clients who are dumb. There are clients who are dumb and stupid and senseless who buy these concepts. They will pay you. And you know why? I'll tell you, it happens in Bollywood, my personal experience. People come from Punjab, Haryana, all over the country, lots of money. You may be 5,000 crore company, but no one in India will know you. Even though you are a huge company, you have 5,000 crore kind of, build up company. Nobody knows you. So they come to Bollywood. They find some joker who arranges a tea meeting with Shah Rukh Khan. He takes his money for that. Now this idiot will spend 2 crores just for a tea meeting with Shah Rukh Khan. He will go back with the photograph of him and Shah Rukh Khan having tea together and show off in Punjab. This film will never be made. This film will never, but he has enough money to spare. So all these people who are into these kind of shady businesses, cash businesses, total cash, they have excess cash. They don't know what to do with it. They have huge amount of cash. So they come to have some fun in Bombay, okay? And their only desire is to get themselves photographed with a film star, either having lunch or dinner or tea or whatever. और उसके लिए वो कुछ भी खर्चा करने को तैयार हैं. And there are enough people in Bollywood to take them for a ride. उनका वही धंधा है. उनका घर इसी से चलता है. That's how they pay their kitchen bills. So I'm not surprised that the clients who are buying into this kind of creative, what kind of a client they will be. I mean, we had a meeting. I gave example of Simon Tata. She said, "I don't want to see your face." I said, "That's okay, but this is the campaign you're going to buy." And that campaign was the most awarded campaign of that year. I Club, you name it, almost every award. And she was the one who sponsored the best writer of award after that.
But sir, I don't think so. Creative agency people can be as bold as you were or your colleagues were in those times now, because brands have so many options.
Yeah, fine. So what exactly does it mean? You're only after money? You're only after billing? Fine, good. Then why waste advertising medium? You can earn money. There are many different ways to earn money. You can manufacture gutka and make a lot more money. You can sell all kind of stupid things and make a lot of more money. So why spoil advertising with your so-called creative? Why? If it is money is all that matters, billing is all that matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Billing is what pays your salary, but billing at what cost? And there are ways to talk to a client. There are ways to tell a story, because even the client is human. He's not a moron. He's human as you can be. But you may be so scared. You may be feeling so insecure. You may be afraid to say whatever you want to say. So yes, it is possible. But, and that's where I give all the limelight to Arun Nanda, that he is the one who could say no to a client. I'm sorry, I don't want your business. I remember on Red Everready when we got the account against four big agencies, these guys went, Ajit and Subhash Chakravarti, and they said, look, we are a small agency, we want advance payment. The billing as advance payment. Nobody has heard this in advertising. Otherwise, you can keep your account. Otherwise, we don't want your account. They had the guts to say it to Union Carbide. The account they had won against four big top agencies, they could say, look, we want an advance payment from your annual billing. Otherwise, we don't want your business. Can anyone say this? I think that requires a very different kind of attitude. I know that not many people will have that attitude. Fine, that's okay. But that is what made us who we became. That's what people remember us for. Yes, we made a difference. Yes, we made a difference in advertising and the client servicing. We made a difference how to look at advertising, not just a tool to make money, but can you leave something which is remembered forever, for a long time? That is what matters.
Sir, a challenge that content creators and advertisers have come up with is from the audience ends now. So they have become really intolerant of anything and whatever they dislike, and they call out for banning of content, threaten.
That is very unfortunate because that is something we didn't have. We didn't have that. That's really, really unfortunate, and I don't know what to do about it. I mean, this is something that the government or the IB ministry has to look into this because it's a huge country and a very diverse country, and almost anything can offend someone or the other in a huge country like this. So, does that mean that you just always play safe? You always play safe? I mean, I'll give an example of my own Ram Yoga. Ram Yoga is a very new way of looking at Ramayana, and I got fantastic responses from mostly young people. But yes, some people say, "Oh, this is not Ramayana. You have done something else," and so on. How could you do this? How could you do this? I said, "Why not?" Valmiki did his own Ramayana. Goswami Tulsidas did his own Ramayana. There are 300 versions of Ramayana, not one. And they have many differences among themselves. I mean, between the Valmiki and the Goswami Tulsidas, there is a huge difference in terms of the story. The same Ramayana, Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Ravan, but yet there are many differences. So would you blame Valmiki? Would you blame, for example, in Indonesia, in their Ramayana, Hanuman is like a James Bond. In our Ramayana, he is a celibate. In their Ramayana, he is a Hanuman. So I think it is a very sad reflection on our sensibilities. Either we have become unnecessarily too sensitive. In fact, वो हिंदी में छुई मुई कहते हैं कि बस छू दो तो वो पत्ते बंद हो जाते हैं. This culture is so broad, so accommodating, so vast. I mean, if you read Valmiki Ramayana, I read it before writing Ramayana, and I was thrilled. My God, what an insight! What an insight! So, this country is perhaps the only country in the world right now, culturally, which can be so accommodating and embracing. This country embraced invaders. Now there's no sign of any of them. कहाँ हैं लोग? Hund, Pathan, Shak, Portugali, French. Almost every country attacked us, invaded us. They came, they made us slave. Fine. Ultimately, we survived. Ultimately, we survived. in spite of all the invasions. Why? Because of our simple attribute, attitude of accommodating. Yes, there can be many views, many attitudes, many cultures. Fine, they may be totally against me, but so what? They also need a place. I'll give one example. At the time of Gautam Buddha and Mahavir, just to go back into history a little bit, there were five other people who were as enlightened as Gautam Buddha and Mahavir. And they were all against each other. Ajit Keshkambal, Sanjay Vilachiputra, Prabhupada Katyayan, Poon Kashyap. I mean, so many of them. But India enjoyed diverse views, views totally against yourself.
In
And
fact,
we,
sir, the recent cases of Family Man too. Now people from Tamil are asking for it to be banned. It's so sad that people
oh,
are.
yeah, I know. People, I think that there should be a law. If this country loves, enjoys free speech, free opinion, if this country, which has respected all kind of views from all over the world for thousands of years, if this country comes to this kind of narrow-mindedness, we are heading towards a very bad scenario. Very bad scenario. I mean, even in Islam, when Ajit was attacking this guy, he said, Ajit, please let me go to India. If you don't like me, fine, but India will welcome me. India welcomed everyone. And India welcomed people from all over the world. And it didn't have any problem. It was not affected in any way by its own culture. जो हमारा था उसमें कहीं कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा. हमारी जो जो सोच थी, दूसरों के आने से हमारा कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ. और जो आए वो खो गए. आज उनका नाम निशान नहीं है. हूण, पठान, शक, फ्रेंच, पोर्चुगीज, ब्रिटिश कहाँ है? कोई नहीं है.
So
Because
at the time, I'm sorry to cut in between.
yeah, no.
You
Yeah,
you
okay.
talked about there should be a law in place to safeguard our
I
interests.
think so. I think so. If at all, if we want this country to survive as it has been always surviving all time for thousands of years, if we want to retain that identity of this country, what we call Bharat, etc. The word Bharat, you know why it is called Bharat? It's called Bharat. Bha यानी light, भा यानी प्रकाश, रथ यानी लगाओ, प्रकाश की खोज में लगा हुआ. That is what this country is all about. जहां से भी मिले प्रकाश की खोज में लगा हुआ. प्रकाश means light of intellect, of intelligence, of thoughts and ideas from anywhere in the world. We welcome it. We are looking for it.
So, but
And
it will take time to happen, and by that time, should we just stand strong in front of the audience backlash, or just retract ourselves? Because
I think it needs some kind of a kind of response, some kind of a response from the people who are responsible in this country, people who sort of are who are involved with the media and with arts and with the literature. Keep, because it's a psychological thing. It's a psychological thing. What has happened was that communities have become very insecure. They feel they are under attack, regardless of whoever you are, upper caste, lower caste, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian. Communities have got this insecurity deep down. Some kind of attack is going on them, and which is going to damage them. And as a community, also, we want to survive with our identity, whoever we are. So whenever there is something, I know that sometimes it can be bad taste, yes, but that is very stupid. If somebody is doing as a bad taste just because get some cheap popularity, then it is really wrong. It is really wrong. I think it is important to differentiate where something is done intentionally. something is done intentionally, and something which is part of a kind of a debate or an intellectual pursuit or whatever, or maybe a new idea or whatever it is. The differentiation is important, that it is not to make someone insecure and afraid and kind of or offend someone intentionally. But it happens, I know in Bollywood, some people like to make or show or do things which are simply to shock people, to shock people, not because it's needed, but they want to somehow to, to create some shock without any reason or rhyme. That is not correct. You don't have the license to sort of take something and try to just shock people into कि हाँ भाई आपने किसी भगवान को दे दी गाली तो आप समझते बड़ा तीर मार लिया, आपने किसी की धार्मिक भावना को चोट पहुंचा दी तो आपने समझते बड़ा बड़ा तीर मार लिया. This is not correct. This is wrong. This is wrong. But ideas, yes, if ideas are presented in a proper way, in a proper context, this country has been a country of debate. We never fought with a weapon, we fought with words. If you look at our entire literature in the past, we never fought with a weapon. We fought with words. You okay, come debate. You say this, I'm saying this, let's sit down and let's debate who's right, who's wrong. Simple as that. Why can't we retain that kind of culture where at least we are ready to debate and not you ban this and ban that, you stop this and stop that. Maybe those people have some arguments in the favor of what they have done or they're showing. But we have a right to give them an opportunity to defend themselves. They must have some reason behind it. And if there is any reason which is not appropriate, which has some other intentions behind it, they will be exposed. But if they have some reason, yes, it is our responsibility to listen to them. Even if we don't like it, we should listen to them. This country has been known for it, that we have listened to things which we don't like. That is what makes this country what it is. That we are so accommodating that anything, any idea, even if it's against my opinion, is welcome. So either you convince me or I convince you. Simple as that.
So, coming to my last question,
Yeah.
what are your views on today's state of content on TV? And according to you, how
Yeah.
has it evolved in the age of OTT?
Satellite TV is dead for whatever reason. There are many reasons. I don't want to go into that. OTT came with a lot of hope because it meant freedom. Freedom that without the fear of box office, one can tell stories that one want to tell. Box office was always a handicap. कि okay, yaar, matlab, the film has to work in the theaters. OTT removed that bondage. We were not a hostage to box office. We were free to tell the kind of story we want to tell. We could take risks. We could explore ideas. We could explore ideas. We could explore ideas, thoughts, narratives, which were never done before in this country. So yes, for me, I welcomed OTT in a way. Welcomed OTT, whether for a film or a series or whatever. But yes, it is quite possible that it was perhaps misused by some people because they could show things which were not possible in the films or on Indian satellite television, whether it was overt sex and simulated blah blah whatever, to shock people, to really shock. But these kind of shocks they wear off too soon. How much of it can you really watch? Now, pornography is so available, open, out there in internet. on every cell phone. Why would people watch it on an OTT show? OTT was meant for the kind of stories which otherwise would not find any space in theater or satellite television in India. Satellite TV has its own limitations. So OTT spells that space and the freedom to tell the. But whatever I've been watching so far, except a few examples, very small examples, the rest is not what it should have been. Most of it is there just to shock you, just to show something that, I mean, whether it is underworld, mafia, I mean, is that the only area left in this country to tell the stories about mafia, underworld, and so on? We are such a rich society. We are perhaps the richest nation on earth when it comes to the stories. We have been the best storytellers in the world. And I'm not talking about Ramayana and Mahabharata. I'm talking about all kind of stories. Our folk tales. Every language we have such incredible folk tales. We are the richest nation when it comes to stories. And those stories had an opportunity on OTT because they may not be going to theaters and because of box office limitation, whatever, or satellite television. Yes, OTT was a great option. So I am all for OTT. It should remain. It should
How can
survive and flourish.
TV channels attract advertisers' money? Because a lot of advertisers are going to OTT.
See the the TV channels have become a victim of their own smartness. I know them. I was long time ago the head of programming, and when we started the first Hindi satellite channel, but what followed afterwards was obscene, literally, so humiliating, regressive, retarding, going back to the kind of shit that Hindi movies had left far behind. They were mostly recycling the old third grade Hindi movies all over again in the form of soap opera. So yes, for some time I think it kept the housewives occupied. दूसरा काम करने चलो थोड़ा टीवी भी देख लेते हैं इसलिए नहीं कि उनको बहुत कुछ उसमें मिलने वाला है but I think it was a suicide ultimately. What they did, what satellite television did, was literally a suicide because they started recycling this third-rate Hindi movies from the 70s into a soap opera format. TV, as I said, is such a great medium, more powerful than cinema because it is repetitive and it's addictive. It is in your house with like water and electricity. You can switch it on and off and so on, unlike a film. So yes, we could have done incredible work. In fact, if you just go back late 90s when ZTV was, we had such brave shows. We had such brave shows on ZTV at that time. You don't find those kind of shows anymore in India. Yes, I was attacked at that time because I was head of programming. Where, for example, in one talk show, I actually showed how a condom is used on a banana as a demo because we found out that a lot of Indians really do not know how to use a condom. And for that, I got a whole lot of flack from, usual offended group of people. But we went on. We fought it, we defended it, and we went on. And one after the other, we had such remarkable path-breaking shows. Like Tara, for example, Tara showed for the first time a woman drinking beer. For me, for India, that was revolution. For India, Indian television, A woman drinking beer was a revolution, but that was the truth of the time. Yes, we were in 90s when the economy had opened and the psyche had changed. Psyche of this country were going through a change. And it worked. People really lapped it. They accepted it. Yes, this is the new girl who can drink beer just like a boy. I'm not saying that they should, but that was just a kind of a symbolic way to show you, okay, times are changing. It is a possible. It is possible. And this country has had women who were so powerful. We are talking about this empowering women, empowering women. Now almost everybody is talking about empowering women, all the political parties and blah, 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 all crap. This country has been empowering women for thousands of years. We had examples of women debating with rishis, debating with their husbands, defeating them in the debate and winning, and so on. We have had great intellectual women in this country. So why not? I mean, there's a story of in I don't know whether I should share it with you. In Ramana, there's a story of Ahilya. Ahilya who became stone because Indra came and seduced her, and her husband Gautam Rishi gave her a curse that you become a stone. A stone means become frigid, and Ram comes and she comes back to life. That is in Goswami Tulsidas Ramayana. In Valmiki Ramayana, I'm not sure whether how many people know this. Ahilya invites Indra. Indra does not seduce Ahilya. Ahilya invites Indra because she says, "My husband is not doing anything for me. He's busy with his sadhana and all that. And why don't you come?" Indra comes and they make love. And Ahilya thanks Indra. Ahilya thanks Indra. This is the kind of women Valmiki Ramayana of all the books have talked about. And here, if I show a woman drinking beer, I'm offending someone. No, this country has been very progressive, very broad-minded, and that is what we should remain. That's our identity. If we close ourselves, if we become like too vulnerable, insecure, and get offended with smaller little things, that's not right. That's not us. That is not India in the first place. Because we won't be able to survive with that attitude.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your very interesting stories and anecdotes and invaluable times. A lot for us. I mean, I've learned so much from you, and I hope our audience have also got a few takeaways, inspiration from you. So,
Okay.
so with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, sir. Hope our audience also enjoyed watching this session. Everybody, please continue taking care. We are trying to,
Yes, yes. That
yeah,
is
in
very
fact,
important.
sir can also say that we should try to stay at home as much as we can,
Yeah,
keep safe. Thank you, everybody.
measure. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Aranksha, for inviting me and having some fun time with you on this platform. And I hope your audience has enjoyed as much as I have. And I hope they're not too offended by some of the things I've said, uh, because that is not India. That is not Bharat. Being offended is not what we are all about. Thank you very much. Bye.